That is the most powerful mantra we ever received. You agree? Did you explain to them how that board over? Did you tell them about how big villages burned down the house that they were practicing while they were practicing? This is a good introduction to the Magdalena Way. This mantra comes from the primary consort of Dhammasambhava, Yeshichobo. You told them that. And she reversed it. She reversed it the way it had been for a particular purpose. Did you tell them that purpose? What did you tell them? Like in one sentence.
That by seeing it backwards, we're asking to be of service. We're asking the question, how may I be of service, and to return again and again until all sentient beings realize their own true nature.
Did you tell them about how some of the stories about how she gave her kneecaps and stuff like that?
No.
No, no. Well,
But
let's
that's
just
my
say.
favorite one.
What?
That's my favorite one.
Oh, yeah.
As far as, that's all that needs to be said, is that this woman was so dedicated that somebody she met on the road one day somewhere had no kneecaps and couldn't walk, and she gave her own.
So when she was, there was a time when she and Padmasambhava were doing practice, like the primal practice that we do here. And it was so powerful that it was disturbing all the villagers around them. All they were doing was being in their little cabin doing the practice we have here, but the energy of it was so disturbing to, you could say, the ordinary construction of the mind world, that the village got more and more agitated, and then they got so agitated they burned the house down that they were practicing in. They had to flee for their lives.
And that's not any different story from, I don't know where our picture is of Papa Ramdas and Mother Krishnabai, but they had the same story. See if you can find that picture, but like those posters up there, the other two couples, Papa Ramdas and Mother Krishnabai were also practicing in a single room hut, and when they would leave, people would open their door and throw shit in it. So when they came home at night, tired and they'd done from a long journey, their little hut was full of shit. And then in another situation, somebody knocked on the door, and Krishnabai answered the door, and somebody started to strangle her. And then Papa Ramdas came out to help, and then there were more men that were coming up, so they were getting mobbed, you could say. And what he did is he just started sounding Ram, Ram from the deepest part of his belly over and over and over again. And pretty soon they let go of her throat and they ran away. And she suffered from severe neck pain ever since that day.
Severe what?
Neck pain, like very.
After that.
After that, it was really injured her. And one day, Isa and I were driving from Utah to here. I was driving a big RV, 32, 36-footer, and Isa was in a little T-Bird, not a T-Bird, what was it?
It's a little Chevy sports car.
Okay, yeah. Anyway, like low to the ground, little two-seater thing. And we were driving through Kansas, and tornadoes were coming up. Like we were driving into black sky, black. And Isa was ahead of me, and I wanted it that way because I was up high and I could kind of see, you know.
Top down?
Wanted to keep, no, not that big. I wanted to see, you know, see him up there. And then as we got more in there and the wind was really picking up, and we started seeing semis, you know, huddled under the overpasses. They were stopping and waiting out the storm. In the distance to the north, towards Nebraska, I saw funnels. And we were driving. And I don't know whether we had some phone connection for a while, and we decided, you know, do we stop or do we just drive through this? And we're like, you know what, all the places to stop are taken. There's not really any place to stop. In the RV with the wind, if you're standing still, right? And we started seeing semis turn over on their sides. And we're like, the only way through this is get through it. So we're going, and that RV is just like, you know, it's crazy. And I just started going, wrong, wrong. And I swear that's what saved my life. I swear to God, it was just like, it was really, really, really intense. But I remembered what Papa Ram Dass did. So, yeah, and it worked.
And what was the first one you just said about them?
About they got shit slung in their head.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, constantly, over and over.
Yeah, just because they were doing tantric practice. Like, nothing like, you know, like screwing in public or anything. I mean, just the power of the union with the practice we're talking about. Disturbs the mind form.
And the perverted minds projecting on them, you know, as if they were doing something they shouldn't be doing.
Where was this at?
Well, this is in India, in Kerala, which is on the west coast, and in the south where it's warm climate. And you can still go visit their ashram, and their bodies are entombed in two beautiful little shrines, and they practice all day long there. They circumambulate the tombs and sing mantra, and they for so many days they do Papa Ram Dass's, and then they switch to Krishna Bhai's. And every morning there's formal practice of what's called arati, or waving the lights, and every evening as well. And Moss and I got to visit there and be in a room next to, pretty near Mother Krishna Bhai's cows, which was fantastic. She was a lover of cows, and she tended to the cows in the gardens. It's a very sweet place to visit.
We mentioned Ganden Tulku, the tantric master from Bhutan. We were already, Mursshud and I, together in the work, but he brought us together as a tantric couple of practitioners. So he used to, we established a practitioner's house in Seattle, and Mursshud was holding that space and developing our work in Seattle. And he would visit, and I would visit, and we'd sometimes visit together. And it became so powerful. We're talking about the shroud now. We talked about how it's the job in the sleep world, in the dark world of sleep, in the matrix, there's a passing on of the poison. And that's the job primarily of the mother, because the mother is closest to the child. But it's certainly the job of the mother and the father. It's more like the this way and the that way together. So anytime we do something like this, it disturbs. We do this to break and turn back into energy and light anything that is dark that surrounds us or is in us. That's why we do this. So there's nothing left, and the consciousness returns. But it's not just that there's the individual, there's the mass part of it. And any time powerful practice occurs, it disturbs the space of sleep. And Mursshud, there were people that attacked the practitioner's house that Mursshud was in, threatened her life, had goons stalking her front yard, just to the point where it was just necessary for her to leave. We made a decision that wasn't furthering to stay there anymore, just because of the power of the practice. And then when we were in...
And Haha and I left in the middle of the night with Groucho Marx glasses on in our cars. With the...
What kind of glasses?
Groucho Marx glasses, you
Oh.
Following each other in two cars. And
That's really cute.
the school corporate papers and documents, the filing cabinet in the back of the station wagon, and just a few things. And
Just two Jewish comedians getting out of town.
down to San Francisco where
Nobody here.
This has happened to us 3 times. It happened to us when we were in North County, and there was somebody who, actually the brother of the person who Murshida's, one of Murshida's consorts that finances this whole place and makes all this happen on the physical level. And his brother got very greedy for some property, and he had people stalking us in the front yard and threatening our lives, inviting us to breakfast and talking about if he'd been in the CIA and if we didn't do this, that, and this, he knew how to just touch something with our arm. Like what happened in England that all the sanctions are about right now, that kind of thing. Like just the nerve agent that just passed, like the way the Tibetan dictator eliminated his half-brother, like that. Just quite graphically invited us to breakfast at, what was that name? The little...
Oh, yeah.
It's in Leucadia on
Yeah.
101. So that was an example of that. That's another time that happened. And then in Long Beach, it happened again. There were some people that were very dark on us, the power of the practice, and started seeing all of this darkly and threatened to have everybody destroyed. We went through this 3 times, and Thomas and Baba and Yeshe Chogo went through this, and everything was burned down. Now, I'm not saying any of this to scare anybody, I'm just saying when you decide you're going to leave, I feel like the movie, The Matrix, is a pretty accurate representation for a popular movie of what it costs to leave the illusion. One of the things that the philosopher Plato, one of the ways he taught was to create myths. He said, this is a myth. And my favorite of all of his myths is this story, I just really simplify this story, where there was a place and everybody was in a cave. So it was relatively dark in the cave. And everybody was chained to the wall. And somehow or another they lived that way, and nobody's, when you hear a story like this, nobody's going to say, well, how did they poop, or how did they cook their food, or whatever. The whole point is they're chained to the wall. And then one of the younger members of this society decided that he was going to break his chains and set free. And it was well known, it had been taught from birth that if you break your chains, you die instantly. And then everybody saw their shadow on the wall because the mouth of the cave was behind everybody, and it was very bright out there. And so everybody saw their shadow on the wall. And so he said, I don't care, I just soon dies, keep doing this. And then they took it to the next level, and it always goes this way. They threatened to kill him if he did it. So that's the irony of it. First, the idea is the cultural knowledge that if you break the chains, you will be destroyed. And then if you just persist, then it goes to the next level. We'll kill you if you do it. And the irony is, of course, everybody's chained to the wall. So anyway, he breaks the chains. everybody's very disturbed. They can only see what happens to him by his shadow. So he walks out into the light, and he'd been in the dark so long that if he got into the bright sunlight, it was just too much, and he just swooned and passed out. And everybody just was so satisfied because it proved that the myth, that the knowledge of their culture is true. That he was instantly died. And in their celebration of this, they didn't see that he got up and walked away. That's my favorite. Plato has some wonderful myths. I have two that are my favorites, and that's one of them. And the other one, both of them refer to the Magdalena Way. So Rudra Yoga is a primitive and unadorned path to perfection. It has one idea and one exercise. It arises out of three treasures: the creation principle, the golden formula, and the Magdalena Way. The Rudra Yoga lifestyle is personal responsibility. I love it that we're here together, we're considering this, and the sound of silence is almost deafening. Do you hear it? Think about what we've accomplished. This is the most important accomplishment that can ever be made. To develop one's ability to hear, to be immersed in the sound of silence while being involved in all the sounds and activities of ordinary life. This is the goal. It's the ultimate form of practice. One that can be amplified in group work like we've been doing, with powerful mantra together like you were just doing. But one ultimately that you must be able to be in on your own. So when you hear the word Magdalena Way, what comes to your mind? Anybody have a thought on that?
Jesus' partner, Mary Magdalene.
Say it again?
Jesus' partner, like Mary Magdalene.
Yeah, like Mary Magdalene. And some, see, you said Jesus is partner. That not everybody thinks that, but you think that, or you heard that.
Pretty obvious.
So that's a good one. What?
I think it's kind of obvious, isn't it?
I didn't think that originally. Oh, but I'm not familiar with.
I was raised Catholic.
Yeah.
Catholic.
No, yeah, not all popular Christian forms would put it that way, but that doesn't mean anything. It's just, it was meaningful to me that you said it that way. It says a lot about you. So that's right. So one thing that comes up is a historical figure, part of the life of this very famous person that has his own musical. So that's a really good, there are a number of ways to approach a very deep understanding of the source of this, and that's a good one. And there was a woman named Flo Callahan that was just minding her own business, being a secretary or something, and one day this voice started talking to her out of the blue, and she didn't really have much of a spiritual background or anything like that. And it just wouldn't leave her alone, and it ultimately was, she had to open up to it. It was Magdalene communicating to her, wanting to tell her story. So I would highly recommend that everybody here who's interested in deeply understanding this treasure out of which Rudra Yoga arises, this is the three treasures, purchase a copy of I Remember Union and put it under your pillow at night, or if you're more Zen-like, make it your pillow and sleep on it at night.
Did you say I remember union?
I remember you.
And I think the recent additions, she's Flo, F-L-O, Magdalene.
She was Flo Callahan, so you can probably find it either
I
way.
think Calhoun.
Oh, Calhoun.
Yeah. So it was C-A-L-H-O-U-N. Now it's Flo, Magdalene.
Buy a copy, if you really want to go deep with this, buy a copy of it.
Can you say it one more time?
Use it as your pillow.
I remember.
Union.
There's a
I
copy of this.
remember
Just
union.
like I remember you. And the Altoids?
Huh?
Callahan? What did you say?
Calhoun.
Calhoun or Magdalena.
Um,
She spells her name F-L-O like we do Rudra Flo.
oh,
F-L-O.
And now, anybody else, when you hear about Magdalena, do you think of any other person? So we'll say something that comes up that you think about. Like it has to do with,
I think all the Marys are the same.
What?
Like all the Marys are the same, so I think of the Virgin Mary as well. I think they're the same person or
All the Marys are the same.
all the
for her.
Marys.
Okay,
Yeah,
She thinks of all
the three
Marys.
Marys, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a beautiful subject itself, the three Marys. The mother, the friend, and the consort. Yes.
and the divine servant.
Divine service.
Yeah.
I think of the female energy, just the overall female energy. Female energy, the female receiver.
Feminine energy as receiver.
It sounded like a boat to me.
A boat.
Yeah.
Oh.
Magdalena.
Benino, the Pinto, the Santa Maria, the Magdalena. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It is. Like
That'd be a great name.
It's like a spaceship. It's like a spaceship.
Anybody else? Yeah, if you think about different scientific studies that have been made on how many thought forms go through the human brain every minute on average. Anybody ever run into these studies? How many thought forms go through the human brain every minute or in any period of time? It's very active. And then the percentages of subjects of those thoughts. Has anybody ever seen anything like that? You have?
Like the statistics on like how much of your brain you're using and how many thoughts you're having at once and yeah. I have a background in psychology, but I don't remember the exact numbers.
Well, it's not important, the number. The main thing that the brain is working all the time on is sex. People are always checking each other out.
That's true.
Can you see the truth of that? All the time.
All of them.
You're not supposed to do it if you're in a committed relationship, right? But we know it doesn't stop it. And it's just part of the biology. It's like when morality tries to control the biology, it creates perversion. We understand that. So there has to be something greater than morality. Morality is probably better than no morality, maybes, in some way. Putting a container on the raging animal. But it does create its opposite of perversion. So really the only solution to the raging animal is, in Tibetan iconography, all of the deities represent enlightened states of mind or enlightened qualities. There are many different deities, and also in Hindu iconography. And each of them represents different enlightened qualities of the human being. It's all about the human being. We made these things. We developed this symbology to express and understand what's going on here in us. And all of them are riding some kind of steed. Does anybody know this? Mm-hmm. So one of the most famous of all deities, and there's so many of them are both Hindu and Tibetan. And sometimes they look exactly the same, and sometimes they look a little different. But many of them are in both places, and there's none more famous than Ganesh.
Yes.
And does anybody here know Ganesh's steed?
I think it's a mouse.
It's the rat.
Or rat, sorry. Rat.
Well, it's particularly the rat, because the rat has certain qualities.
Because it's called Mushak, and Mushak is a mouse. Mushak is his right. Mushak is a mouse.
Do you distinguish mouse and rat? Small.
Just like your mouse and rat has different things. The word Mushak means mouse. The word mouse comes from Mushak in the original word. It's the same word.
What's the word for rat?
There is another, but it's
Different.
not used.
Yeah.
Not in that sense, divine sense.
Oh.
Well, I think the main reason that the rat symbolizes something about
But this point is,
the possibility of the power
yeah.
that a human being can harness. So, you know, we all know about like Mighty Mouse and the Flash. Superheroes, right?
Mickey Mouse.
And sometimes they're animals, sometimes they're people. Well, rat has superpowers relative to other animals.
It's tenacious.
Huh?
It's tenacious.
Tenacious, chew through anything.
Anything.
Yeah, I mean,
Only
slide, make its body almost flat, get through anything,
Very resourceful.
survive under almost any circumstances. Difficult to kill.
The cat can.
So this is a symbology of taming the animal.
Looks like a crow.
There's many birds.
I think a bird flew into the window. It sounded like to me.
The window.
The window, no, a bird. Sometimes
Big bird.
crashes into these windows.
Just
You need to go
me.
see if the bird's okay.
It flew away.
Rich just said it flew away.
Oh, okay.
Just hit.
That's good. So the Magdalena Way is about how to tame the animal without repressing the animal. And use the power of the animal for the only purpose of human life, which is to wake up and regain the consciousness and join it again with the being of energy and light while in the human body. That's it. That's the only purpose of a human life.
Waking up more and more. Yeah.
So harness that power. So we can, sex or a primal power or a root power or however we call it. We're talking about that power of the animal. So the animal becomes something we ride, and it has qualities of superpowers, the power of that animal. So much of shamanic work is around animals and their powers, and so you understand what I'm talking about. So it's the power of the animal in each of us. To harness it without repressing it, to control it without limiting it, and then point it in the direction of serving purely with all of its power and might, our purpose to awaken and then ride the animal in the infinite sun. Now that is the Magdalena Way. So in the way that it's expressed, and in the way it comes from Mary Magdalene, her example, and in the way it is connected to this practice that you're learning of, that comes from the consorts of Padmasambhava and Yeshe Chogo. It is making your sexuality focused on awakening and service of healing yourself and others and growing or evolving yourself and others. And to get clear that you bring it into your consciousness, because it's always there, and it's always present, and it's always going on, so to speak. And it is the animal, it is the power of the animal. It's the root power. And so to bring that into the service to healing oneself and others, and growing oneself and others, and becoming crystal clear about that. And the difference between that and what you could call unconscious sexuality. To understand the difference and then choose the path that leads to success in the only purpose of human life on earth, which is to awaken and rejoin consciousness with energy and light. So the being becomes complete in the body. And in this time, and in this particular work that we're doing here, what we are here to do is to help anyone who wants to take this road to become awake and be capable of entering the door of the New Being Project and creating a new world held together by beings who are who become again new beings themselves, who reawaken back into their innocence, where nothing is left, where their story has become a song. There's so many great examples back in Norse days, in the days of Northern Europe, and also the days in Northern Europe, in Northern India, where the bards, the people who were awake, and they went around and did plays, and like minstrels, and they would sing the songs of their people about how they woke up. They turned the ordinary into the awakened or the extraordinary, the songs. And for each individual person, the story becomes a song. And it's the song of your triumph out of what you got to work with. And the Magdalena Way and the understanding of harnessing the power of the animal without controlling or repressing it, directing it in the right direction, making the part of it that is your sexuality about healing oneself and others and growing oneself and others, and developing the ability, the very clear and powerful ability to distinguish between conscious sexuality and unconscious sexuality, and putting one's whole self to service to oneself and others without any distinction or difference between oneself and others, to healing oneself and evolving oneself, to healing others and evolving others. And I offer my body, my sexuality, my life to this purpose, because it is the only purpose of life on earth. And that is the Magdalena Way. And since the Rudra Yoga lifestyle is personal responsibility, it's very simple. That's your responsibility! That's it! And then from that place, it comes into the power of the word and the ability to develop silence in oneself, so that before words ever leave your mouth, They have already been heard. They have already been seen. They have already been felt. And they align perfectly to your purpose and intent as a being who is about awakening. And so once that word comes out, it is yours, and it is your responsibility to fulfill it. And that becomes as important as life itself. That one would put one's life on the line all the time to one's word. And in the Rudra Yoga lifestyle, that's what it means to be responsible. To be responsible to the word. So I feel complete in discussing the Rudra Yoga. The Rudra Yoga, what do we call it?
Description.
Definition, yeah. That's complete.
Would you say it one more time, the description?
That's complete?
Well, just in the wake of completion, just having heard all that, say it again, the 4 sentences.
The whole
Yeah.
Rudra Yoga definition.
Yeah.
Rudra Yoga is a primitive and unadorned path to perfection. It has one idea and one exercise. It arises out of 3 treasures: the creation principle, the golden formula, and the Magdalena way. The Rudra Yoga lifestyle is personal responsibility. We're all in the sound of silence together now. Make it your business not to leave this place. Make it your business, this is your practice, to not leave this place. You didn't come here just to get an experience. You came here to get the experience, to get clear about all of this, and then to come into the harmonious sound. You can call it the sound of Om, you can call it the sound of truth, you can call it anything you want. It is a harmonious sound, it is the universal sound. It is the sound of space singing. It is the sound of consciousness singing. This sound. And your gift is to take this sound and take it with you in your life, and no matter what you do or what you're involved in, keep your connection, keep your unity in this great unity, this sound. And you will be guided correctly in every way with everything you do. And to realize that there's nothing going on here but awakening. And it's like being on a big old gigantic holodeck. And there is one force in the universe that goes through the DNA. And it is the power of awakening. And it will serve each person. It's intelligent. And it will serve each person according to the depth, the power, their intensity of their wish to grow. And however powerful that is, it will bring things in front of you in the hologram that test your ability to be conscious, to stay conscious, to remember the universal sound. And it will keep testing you and testing you. It will bring more and more to you until there's nothing to disturb. And then it'll just stop. And the holodeck disappears. That's the whole deal. That's the whole enchilada right there. So take this with you. It's yours. It was yours before you came. But it's clear now. And you're really rooted and grounded in it. It's really yours now. And nobody can do any of this for you outside of what's already been.